Hey everyone, this is Frank Rich from Star Wars Autograph Collection down here at Book Expo America at the Javitts Center in New York City. And I'm very pleased to have with me author Jason Fry. Jason, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Jason, many people know you for your work within Star Wars and the encyclopedias, but what's your story in getting into writing? And let's start with that. How did that come about?
Sure. I mean, it really starts, as I think it does for most writers, as being a reader. From the very beginning, as a little kid, I was reading all the time. I loved stories, and that really kind of quickly, in a way I honestly can't recall, led to not only hearing stories but telling my own. And from as early as I could remember, I was writing little short stories or poems, or even enjoying school papers. Anytime I could get to tell a story, whether it was explaining something in the real world or making up something of my own, I was happy. And that's one thing I tell aspiring writers now, is that every bit of writing will teach you something. Poems in a format you think you will never write again will teach you something. That social studies paper you don't want to do will teach you something. And I think that led directly into how I write as a 45-year-old. I write fiction. I'm a former journalist. I still write nonfiction. Just give me something to write and I'm happy.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the work that people know you for, it's more of within Star Wars, the encyclopedias have become very popular.
Yeah, kind of nonfiction fiction.
Yeah, so how was that a transition for you as somebody who liked telling stories? How was that feel?
No, it's interesting. For my writing, and I think a lot of other writers would say this too, until fairly late there wasn't a plan. It was just, I was lucky enough to occasionally get projects and get to work with people. And it was only later that I started figuring out, oh, maybe I can actually do this for a living. Now how is that going to work? Which is, a big, terrifying and exciting transition. It's funny. I think, when I sat down to write the Essential Atlas, I'm not sure I really thought of it in terms of, this is a project I can use skills from this column or that column that I've learned, though it did work out that way. It was more like, oh my goodness, I get to write Star Wars and do this dream come true of mapping the galaxy. The nonfiction fiction, though, I mean, it's interesting. It's a good question. I've never really thought about it to this level. But, yeah, I mean, the journalism stuff really does help. What's the story you're trying to tell? What are the points you need to get it across? What's important, what's not? And all that stuff I learned writing about the bond market or technology earnings or stuff like that, and got to apply it to Star Wars. So everything helps.
Excellent.
Okay, that's all right.
So I guess that brings us into your Jason Fry's story of being a Star Wars fan. How did you get into Star Wars?
How did I get into Star Wars? It was sort of foreordained, because I was 8 years old in May 1977, and it was just the absolute perfectly targeted age. And so, Princess Leia's little ship came across the screen. This was in Lake Grove, New York, and then Darth Vader's Star Destroyer came after it and kept coming and coming and coming, and by the time you saw the engines, I was hooked. That was really it, and I just stayed a Star Wars fan. And I was interested in the movies, and I got interested in all the lore behind it. I was always the kid who, read all the appendices in The Lord of the Rings and tried to learn Elvish and stuff like that. So that the world building, though I didn't know that was what it was called at the time, also really interested me. So I was very interested in the expanded universe and the comics and all that other stuff. And so eventually, when my career as a professional writer, as a journalist, kind of dovetailed with being a Star Wars fan, there was an opportunity, and I started writing for the Star Wars Insider. That was the first real official gig I got, and then went from there. And the first book was actually, I did some role-playing stuff for Wizards of the Coast, and then that led to the Clone Wars visual guide. And 24 books later, we keep going with things like Star Wars Rebels and all the exciting new stuff coming to the saga we all know well.
I've talked to many authors, and it seems a lot of you started were fans of Star Wars before you were writing, as opposed to it's just a job, and we know it is a job.
Yeah.
But do you find that when you interact with other authors from the Star Wars universe that there's a fandom there amongst the authors?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's lots of Star Wars authors when they get their first book, they have the same reaction, and I think it's a great reaction to see that they grew up as fans of Star Wars, and they kind of pinch themselves when they get a chance to actually play in that sandbox. And I'm no different, but I think it's something that's been great for the franchise that that authors approach it with I feel a certain amount of reverence, but more than that, just wanting to have fun. And the stuff you loved as a kid is an excellent starting point for good storytelling and trying to make other kids excited about new dimensions to the galaxy far, far away.
That's great. Do you have of your body of work? Do you have a favorite piece that you've done?
Oh goodness, a favorite thing. I think every author would tell you their favorite thing is probably the book they're working on now, because it has to be that way.
Yeah.
Some highlights. The Essential Atlas was a book that I literally dreamed of when I was a child. Like I dreamt that I was in my local bookstore and there was this atlas of the Star Wars galaxy, which was something I was fascinated by. Probably because at the time, the Atlas of Middle-earth was actually a big seller then, and that kind of opened my eyes to what things could be. So, as a child, I quite literally dreamed that I had bought this book, and I had that funny thing that happens to you sometimes where you wake up and you're still in the dream and you can't figure out what's real or not. And I was just absolutely crushed when I realized that no, there was no such book. And, I didn't know that there would be such a book eventually, except I would have to meet Dan Wallace and we'd have to write it ourselves. So that's one that, that was a huge labor of love and a book very dear to my heart. Right now I'm working on, I just turned in the story treatment for the second book in a young adult novel series for Star Wars Rebels. The series is Servants of the Empire. And, that's in the Rebels setting, but the stories are my own creation. So that's tremendously exciting for me as an author to get to do that. And then, outside of Star Wars, I'm working on the third Jupiter Pirates book. That's my own series. It's a young adult space fantasy from HarperCollins. And, that's been a dream, and working with great editors and meeting fans and, working in a setting that is not the galaxy far, far away, but shares some of its DNA. So, those are three highlights, but really, I pinch myself. This is what I always wanted to do, and every book I work on is a lot of fun and a chance to work with great people.
Can you tell us, a lot of people that are going to be watching this are Star Wars fans, can you tell people a little bit about the series for the Jupiter Pirates that might want to give it a try?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Jupiter Pirates is set in the 29th century. And it's at a time where Earth is the dominant power of the solar system, and the heroes actually work for the colonies on the Jovian moons, which are broken away. It's a story about space pirates, but it's also, in good Star Wars tradition, it's a family saga. The Hashoons, who are the characters in the story, are a family of space pirates, and they work together on their starship, which is called the Shadow Comet. The starship's captaincy has been handed down from generation to generation. Huff Hashoon was the captain. He was very badly injured in a space battle. He had to give up the captaincy. Of his children, his daughter Diocletia was the best pirate, so she became the captain. Now she in turn will hand down the captaincy to one of her children, Tycho Hashoon, the hero, his twin sister Yana, or their older brother Carlo. But only one of the kids can be the captain. So they have to work together as crewmates, but they're also competitors for the same prize. And that's kind of the engine that drives the series. But then beyond that, there's lots and lots of space battles and intriguing revelations and good world building. So yeah, if people like Star Wars, I think they'll like this. It's officially what they call a middle grade book for ages 8 to 12, but I think it works for people 8 to 80, as they say.
Yeah. Great. This show, Book Expo America, as an author, as an author, these what do you get out of these shows? What brings you here?
I just, as a kid who grew up surrounded by books and was lucky enough to have parents who thought that a house overflowing with books was a good start, just being able to walk these halls and see, what everyone is doing and how excited they are about projects. I mean, it kind of gives you some fuel for going home and going back at what you're doing. And also, any place you can read, you can meet readers or meet the folks who connect you with readers, librarians, etc., is a place I want to be. So it's always exciting to come here and see old friends and make some new ones, but also just to walk around and be surrounded by books for an afternoon. It's great.
It's great. Well, this is my first time, and it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
You're going to be signing here in a little bit. You're going to be signing your book.
Yeah, I'll be signing the Jupiter Pirates Hunt for the Hydra, which is the first in the series. Second one, Curse of the Iris, comes out this December, which seems like an impossibly long time, but that's the way you always feel, and it comes, and then you get to share the book. But yeah, I'll be signing in a couple minutes.
What do you when you're signing at shows? You've been doing this for a little while now. What do you enjoy, or the things that you don't enjoy?
Well, I wanted to be a writer all my life, and I was lucky enough to get to do that. But an inescapable truth about writing is that it's lonely. The only way you do it is you spend hours and hours by yourself at your desk, trying to just, hack is a bad word, kind of carve a story out of marble, and eventually you get there, but it's arduous and it's frustrating. And writing, you can only do it by yourself. Even when you're collaborating, you've got to do it by yourself, and that's the part of it that's tough. And what I love about shows is you actually get to look across a table and talk to a reader or a potential reader, and you get to have people. You get to have people with books. So, that's another thing I tell aspiring writers all the time is writing is a team. That the author gets his or her name on the cover, but it's really kind of unfair because there are so many people who make a book a reality, from your editor to designers to all the people who get it bound up right, and people who get into the stores, and then finally last, but certainly the farthest thing from least are the readers. So as a writer, don't be a diva, don't go it alone, because it's lonely and you need people. You need people to help you make the book a reality, and then you certainly need people to read it. So shows are a chance to see people and see readers, and that's great.
Now, do you have any other signings and shows lined up that people can come and meet you?
Yeah, this weekend I'm finishing up a tour I'm doing for DK around the updated and expanded Lego Star Wars Visual Dictionary, which is a lot of fun. I happen to have one right here. And this has been a crazy tour. It's taken us to, let's see, I'll see if I can rattle it off. Philadelphia, Indianapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, Seattle, Carlsbad, San Francisco, Orlando, and then we're going to finish it off in Maplewood, New Jersey, and Huntington, New York. So that's been a lot of fun. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to be at San Diego Comic-Con in July. And
great.
Then hopefully other places to do it too.
Is it? It's early yet, but do you think we'll see you at Celebration Anaheim?
Oh, I certainly hope so. Yeah, that's going to be. It's just such a rich, amazing time for Star Wars that it's going to be great to all get together as our tribe likes to do, and see what new things have come down the pike that we're enjoying, and see what everybody's fighting about, frankly, which to a certain extent is part of the fun, and just be together again.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you and hearing your story, and of course, may the Force be with you.
Thank you, and also with you.